Josh Burns asks, if you're a believer, can you describe your God? Josh, you know everything I'm going to say. No! Not at all. Not in any way that is not ironic. Not in any way that is not false. How can I say this? I am a believer. I'm a Christian of a Protestant variety of an evangelical type. Evangelical, taken from the word evangelion, news in a sense. Isn't it fake news? Don't I, by calling myself an evangelical, identify with a biblical literalism, a taking of what the words in the Bible say as the definition of reality by which all things must get compared, such that I literally ignore the world. I call myself a scientist and a physician. What a joke. I'm going to say some very strange things, which I've thought about for a long time. I've had this sort of conversation with a few people. Some people see something in what I'm about to say. Others see nothing. I love that. My empirical evidence for God is what I realized rationally as an empiricist as a teenager, when I was an anti-theist in a sense. I had grown up in a religion-free world, and I had been educated in the scientific method, and I was passionate about science. So as I was exposed to Christianity as a teenager, I hated it. It's so stupid. There is clearly no God. Evidently no God. Empirically no God. Rationally no God. Well, wait, hang on. Rationalism that's another answer. I've already said that. But I enjoyed, as a younger man, taking Christians apart because they were so silly. What they said was so wrong. Here's how you undo Christianity. I've written this down a couple of times, but here's the simple way. Here's what I used to say. I had read the Bible. I read the Bible in an attempt to destroy it, to know how to refute what Christians said. Because they annoyed me. They acted like they knew something that I didn't know, and I know everything. So I made sure that I could rip their whole silly compendium of ancient crap apart. It's really easy. It's really easy. Here's how you do it. This is not new, by the way. This was formulated by theologians who believed the scriptures. Christ on the cross is man. Sinful man. Christ on the cross is sin, made sin to be for us. So there's this really clear sense throughout the New Testament and in some hints in the Old Testament that this person who is hung on a tree according to the ancient law, the death which characterizes shame and expulsion from Israel and you know, literally the abomination that causes desolation sort of thing, that man is being judged under the law rightly. He is being condemned as a blasphemer. He is being executed for breaking the law. Yet Christians and the Bible itself says that man is the God who gives the law. The God who cannot entertain sin. This is why the criticism that Jesus sits and eats with gluttons and drunkards and sinners is so profound. Because God, if he is really God, if he is holy, if he actually maintains consistency with the entire Old Testament, he won't do that, right? He will stone people to death for adultery. That's what the law says, isn't it? Andrew Weil? Gosh, I got so angry at that incredibly silly response, taking a literalist view and then, when criticized, saying, but literalism is wrong. Yeah. So, Jesus on the cross, Christians say, the Bible itself, if we take the Bible to be what Christians call the Bible, says that he is made sin for them, and that he is God, the very God that cannot know sin, that cannot tolerate sin, that cannot be in the same space as sin, that God cannot be judged by his own law. It's logically inconsistent, it's impossible, it's ridiculous. But that is the crux of the Christian message. That is what you see, plain and simple. It is shameful. That's the crux of Christianity. It refutes itself. It undoes itself. The whole thing is madness. And it says that. This is why when people come to me and they say, what's your empirical evidence for God? It's actually never changed. It's just the interpretation of it changed entirely. It's nothing. That's my empirical evidence for God. That is how I describe my God. Nothing. I talk a lot about zero. I talk a lot about the null set, the empty set. I talk a lot about the logic that we derive from our sets and our groupings. We need to realize that what is contained in the Gospels is the most profound irony. And it's exactly the same irony that we base our entire computational method on. It's what we base our knowledge of good and evil on. We can separate something from nothing, can't we? We know what something is, and we know that it's different from nothing. So we know nothing. How can we know nothing? How can we know what nothing is? How can we enumerate zero? Is zero a thing? It must be a lie if it's what it purports to be, which is a symbol for nothing. How can nothing be correctly symbolized? How can we describe nothing? And yet that's what zero, the contrast against which we create one, the basis of our binary computation, the fact of our truth and falsity. If a thing is real, it is evident, it is actual, it is not nothing. And yet we have a word for nothing. And we have a numeral for zero. And we have a box that we draw, which is the subset of all sets. What does it mean? What is it? Nothing? It can't be what it says it is. And yet we don't doubt that. No. We build our entire ontology on that. We know what nothing is. I have 0 oranges here. I'm holding 0 oranges. This must be evident. This must be fact. This must be a picture of reality that is true. Otherwise, how do I describe one? How do I describe something? I have 0 things. I have nothing. This is my empirical evidence. This is my description of God. My own humiliation. The understanding of what truth must be because of the perception that what we call truth cannot be. This is what happens in the Gospels. The teachers of the law, the Pharisees, the religious elite, the people in the know, the people of power, the people who define what is right and wrong in that society, according to the laws which they wrote, and the God that they claim, they kill a man who I believe is the God that wrote the laws. Impossible, ridiculous, ironic, senseless. There's nothing to see there. It's the subset of all sets, the description that allows description itself, the humiliation that produces wisdom, the death that is life.